It is time to come clean. Well, today's my birthday, and thus I thought it'd be a good day to finally do what many of you have been asking me to do for quite a long time, and answer any and all of the questions you guys asked me in a very honest, unfiltered, and unscripted manner. I don't know why I'm kind of worried about it. How did I get into metal? Well, the story goes, and bear in mind that I'm not 100% sure that it is actually true, but my uncle, who actually introduced me to metal, insists that it totally happened. So, according to him, when I was brought in from maternity hospital, he actually played me some Metallica for the baby to get used to good music. Like, seriously. Well, I'm not 100% sure it's true because I don't think my mother would actually allow that. But the truth is that I kind of have been listening to rock and metal in one capacity or another for pretty much as long as I remember myself. My late father was very much into Deep Purple, Accept, and some Ukrainian rock bands, and my mother was a huge Scorpions and Queen fan. And as I mentioned, of course, my uncle was into heavier stuff. So I kind of have been immersed into this world of rock and roll and heavy metal for pretty much my entire life. Except for a very weird phase in middle school, which lasted for a couple of months, when I tried to blend in with the crowd and pretended I liked rap. Yeah, that was, I guess, very painful to watch for everyone. Well, when it comes to my top 5 favorite singers, I'm gonna go with a very obvious choice. It definitely would be Rob Halford, Ron James Dio, Bruce Dickinson, Ian Gillan, and, well, I guess that one is gonna be a little strange for some people, I guess, as Blackie Lawless from Wasp. Yeah, because that's what Chainsaw would sound like if it could sing. I absolutely love it. The most insane concert I've ever been to was Iron Maiden in Costa Rica in 2008. And not really because Maiden were extra crazy that night or something like that, but because of the crowd. Honestly, it was one of the only big shows I've seen in Latin America, and oh my god, was it insane. Any fans from Latin America, if you guys are watching me, you are awesome. Seriously, seeing Maiden in Costa Rica was incredible. And it was actually there before that concert that I got to see Maiden and got to hang out a little bit with Steve Harris. It's a very funny story. So the thing is, nobody actually knew when exactly Iron Maiden would be coming to Costa Rica. So I went to the airport, which was simply filled with people. There were like thousands of Iron Maiden fans there trying to see the Air Force One, trying to catch the guys or something like that. So obviously we've seen the plane and stuff like that, but you know, I was not able to get to the boys there. And from there, me and my friend from Egypt, he was, we somehow found out that there's a possibility that they're staying at a certain 5-star hotel in San Jose, in the capital of Costa Rica. So I had an idea of how we could potentially meet the guys. We went back to the college. I went to college in Costa Rica. We went back to the college. We changed to our best clothes. And we took a public transportation 2 blocks away from that hotel, and already there it was all filled with people, and police was everywhere around it and not allowed to pass anybody in because there were just so many fans, and they of course knew that Iron Maiden was there, and everybody was trying to to meet Maiden. So from there, from 2 blocks away, we ordered a taxi into the hotel. And when we rolled in and policemen like stopped us, we were like pretended to not speak any Spanish and just said that we live in this hotel. And he was like, "Oh yeah, sure, pass." So there we just sat at the bar and hung out there until Nico and Steve showed up, and we got to hang out with them a little bit, and we got to talk to him a little bit, and that's where he signed my Live After Death DVD. It was freaking awesome. So first of all, for those who don't know, my absolute 4 favorite bands of all time: Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Metallica, and Motorhead. Those are the 4 bands without which I simply cannot really imagine my life, in all honesty. But in addition to that, I really love In Flames, and I love them for a long time. I got introduced to them quite late into the game. My first album was Road to Remain, but then I discovered their early stuff, and that's when I was just simply blown away. I love Scorpions. I love Wasp. I of course love Ozzy Osbourne and Dio, and one other band which was really important for me growing up was actually Paradise Lost. once again, because of my uncle, who was a huge fan of Paradise Lost. And I love it. I love it ever since. What I listen to outside of metal? Well, first of all, I love blues. Blues is something that I've been listening to for many years already now. And I'm also really into dark country stuff. I think it's just incredible. It's very atmospheric, love it. And also I really like some weird folky indie stuff, you know, the music my wife listens to and I pretend I absolutely hate, but I actually secretly really enjoy and like when she puts it on. No, mostly some Ukrainian indie folky bands. They're really good actually, like they're amazing musicians. Yeah, don't tell her that though, because she would put it all the time and she would make me listen to it all the time. Well, in order to not make it skewed into just a couple of bands, I'm gonna make it a little bit more interesting and name 10 albums by 10 different bands. So here you go. It's Judas Priest Defenders of the Faith, Iron Maiden's Power Slave. Did I say Power Slave? I usually go with Somewhere in Time. It's kind of weird. But anyways, Motorhead's Overkill, Black Sabbath's Paranoid, Metallica's Ride the Lightning, Megadeth's Rust in Peace, In Flames' Jester Race, Wasp's Crimson Idol, Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, and I guess Blind Guardian's Nightfall in Middle-earth would be those 10 albums by 10 different bands that I would, you know, take with me on a deserted island or something like that. Dio is a legend. He's one of the most iconic figures in rock and metal overall. And I'm guilty. It's an absolute shame that I never talk about Dio on the show. I don't know why. It just I've been meaning to for so long, but somehow I just didn't, you know, didn't make it into the show ever. At some point I felt like I don't know enough about Dio to make, you know, some nerdy episodes, but then I realized that most likely it's not it. I just, you know, never got around to it. But I promise I will change. I promise there will be more Dio content coming on the show soon. Very soon. Well, I first got introduced to Iron Maiden as a kid through my uncle who got me into metal overall. But the thing is that, you know, back in the day, music was not as accessible, at least in Ukraine, as it is today, of course. And my uncle, he only had Fear of the Dark on his cassette tape. So I listened to that album on repeat gazillion times. And then he got X Factor, and, you know, I've listened to that album, you know, like really a lot. I was really into Maiden, into what I heard from Maiden at that point. And he had a couple of, you know, singles also recorded on the B-side of some cassette tape. So I would like listen to those on repeat. But the craziest thing, that band that got me into Iron Maiden was actually not Iron Maiden themselves. In addition to Iron Maiden, I got introduced to the band Rage, and I was really into them. It's a German power metal band, and they're incredible. If you've never heard them live, if you never see them, they're incredible. I saw PV last year at Wacken Open Air. Once again, we got to talk, and it's once again, it is one of those bands that was really important for me when I was growing up. And they actually made an incredible cover on The Trooper, on my personal favorite Rage album, The End of All Days. And when I was listening to that album, I was like, oh my god, this song really stands out. It's different from everything else there, and I really want to dive deeper into it. And then I discovered that it's actually an Iron Maiden song. Like believe it or not, but I didn't really know that The Trooper was an Iron Maiden song back then. And from there, I got, you know, I discovered Peace of Mind and everything else, and it just unfolded from there, and since then I was just hooked. Iron Maiden has been with me since then until today, and I'm very glad and happy about it. My first concert, well, my father was very much into rock and roll, so I've been going to the concerts of some Ukrainian bands with him since I was a little kid. I guess my very first one would be Ukrainian band Vopli Vidoplasova when I was really little kid, and yeah, I loved it. But the first concert I went to myself, like without my parents, and I went to with my friends, was Deep Purple in Kyiv. It was incredible. It is still one of the most amazing experiences for me because it was my first show. It's like first sex, something like that, but not that awkward. I never got to see AC/DC live, and I very much regret it. I had numerous opportunities to do so, but I was always either too broke when I was in college or something else came up, and in the end, this year I guess would be the year for me to finally do it, but obviously because of the war in Ukraine I'm not simply able to travel anywhere and see this band live, but yeah, never seen AC/DC. I'd be a liar if I had said no. The truth is, this is something I really want to do, and I've been meaning to do it for several years now, but first, COVID hit us, and of course now I'm in Ukraine during the time of war, so it's very hard to do so. Yeah, I've played in a bunch of bands before, and I graduated from music school and playing piano, then I picked up guitar, but my true passion is actually singing, weirdly enough. And I actually have enough material written for at least one album, like one solid album, but I simply need to carve out time somehow to do it and find the right musicians to do it with, and it's not that easy. It requires a lot of time, it requires a lot of effort, but I really want to do it, and I guess that will be the first thing I'd love to do after Ukraine's victory in this war. So I got introduced to Judas Priest a little bit later than to Iron Maiden Metallica, for one very simple reason. Music was a rather scarce resource back in the day in Ukraine, and my uncle, from whom I was getting most of my metal, simply did not have any Judas Priest albums bootlegged from his friends. Maybe he had just a couple of songs here and there. But the thing is, I knew about the band and I was absolutely sure that, by all means I was supposed to love it. So I've been meaning to get, to listen to Judas Priest and get into Judas Priest for a while now. And so on one weekend, I was watching VH1 and they had some, all-day marathon of 100 best rock songs of all time or something like that. And so when we finally got to number 5 or, something around that, like very high up in the list, there was Judas Priest there. And I was like, oh my god, finally! This is it! This is Judas Priest. I'm gonna hear this song, I'm gonna love it, I'm gonna headbang so hard to it, and I had no doubts that I'm gonna absolutely love it. And it was breaking the law. So one of the greatest songs Judas Priest have ever written. And I've heard the song, and I absolutely did not like it. And I was shocked. I was like, what is going on? Something just didn't align. Like something was weird, maybe something with my mood or something like that. So I decided, I thought to myself, like, there's no way. There's just no way. I'm gonna find this song and I'm gonna play it again because most likely I just didn't get it. And so I found it and I played it again and I was like, oh, so I just didn't get it. And since then, I just fell in love. So I guess with Judas Priest, it was a love at a first and a half sight for me. But since then, I started discovering their back catalog. And, the first full album that I, listened to in its entirety was Defenders of the Faith. And to this very day, it remains my absolute favorite Judas Priest album and one of my absolute favorite albums of all time. And Setlist of Destiny just hooked me for some reason as well. And Victim of Changes impressed me so much that I think I cried quite a lot when I first heard it. And I don't even know why. I didn't really read the lyrics or anything like this. And to this very day, I consider it to be, possibly my favorite song of all time. Not just Judas Priest song, any song. At least definitely top 5. My favorite non-metal bands, well, okay, so we need to understand that when it comes to not metal bands, I enjoy quite a lot of them, and I really like and possibly even love some of them, but I wouldn't call them my favorite bands just because, once again, I only consider to be really a true fan of just 4 bands in the world, not because I don't like any others, not at all. There are some that I listen to even quite more often than I do to, Motorhead or Metallica on a given day, but simply because I haven't built that much of an emotional connection to them. But when it comes to non-metal bands, well, I really like the Ukrainian band Ozzy, because I met my wife at an Okeana Ozzy concert, and it's kind of our band, and I absolutely love it, of course, and they are the legends of Ukrainian pop rock music. I really love Ukrainian band Brati Hadyukini. I firmly believe that without them there will be no Ukrainian metal scene, no Ukrainian rock scene whatsoever. They were the first true punky rock and roll rebels who were able to make it. There were some bands before them, but these are the guys who made it into the mainstream. And furthermore, I guess I really, really love Dropkick Murphys. I listened to some Mumford & Sons and I enjoy it, and as I mentioned, quite a lot of blues rock. Yeah. Does Ukraine have a metal scene? Yeah, definitely, of course. It has a very rich and I'd say very authentic metal scene, simply because it kind of has remained underground for the past 30 years in a way that it hasn't really made it to the mainstream locally, like it happened in many other European countries, but still, nevertheless, it has a very die-hard following and some really amazing bands. And of course, the war unfortunately has affected it quite a lot. I mean, if we take into account, for example, Kharkiv, which is like the heart of, historically it has been the heart of Ukrainian metal scene. It's, it's under heavy shelling all the time, and of course most of the clubs, they do not work, and people simply, do not go to see metal shows. They are not able to do so, and, there are other priorities, unfortunately. Now, and Kharkiv for Ukraine is like Birmingham is for Great Britain. It's the home of some of the most incredible and especially black metal and death metal, bands in Europe. And yeah, it's a shame, of course. But nevertheless, despite the war, some of you who follow me on, Instagram or Facebook and, are subscribed to my second channel, MP2, know that, despite the war, we're trying to organize fundraising metal concerts here in Kyiv and Lviv and in the cities where we are able to do so. And, those clubs are usually, jam-packed with people who are coming there just to, let their steam off for 2 hours, forget about all the troubles, headbang, and then go back to doing their own stuff. So I have this feeling and really true hope that in addition to everything, this war might actually give a new push to Ukrainian metal scene. And after our victory, we'll see a rise of many, many Ukrainian metal bands. We just need to win this war now. Well, when it comes to Ukrainian metal bands, I guess most people, in addition to Jinjer, would know, some of the classic black metal bands from Ukraine, from Kharkiv, once again, the cradle of Ukrainian black metal. And some of them have been around for like 30 years. But out of the newer ones and the ones that are still active and, that I would recommend to look out for right now, I would definitely go with White Ward, with 1914 Ignea. The band Hell On if you're into death metal, more darker bands like Drut or Course. And if you're into some more modern stuff, I would definitely recommend checking out True Tough. They're pretty awesome. Megadeth or Metallica? Well, I was kind of afraid that this question would come up, so there's no short answer to this one, although there is one. Okay, so when it comes to, stability, when it comes to riffs, and when it comes to overall, consistency, I would definitely go with Megadeth. I mean, those are the guys who kind of stay true to their own sound for so long. But at the same time, if you would ask me what is what is dearest to my heart, and which band, if I would have to pick one to listen to out of those two until the end of days, I would definitely go with Metallica. First of all, because in my personal opinion, the first 4 Metallica albums are simply unmatched in the genre. There's no one who's coming close to it. And I do understand that it might be because of the personal emotional connection I have with such, some of those albums, and especially Ride the Lightning. And in addition to that, what I absolutely love about Metallica, and I always loved, it's actually something that many people hate about them, is the whole fact that they experimented and involved so much, kind of like Judas Priest in a way, but in a slightly different paradigm, that they have such a diverse back catalog that no matter what your mood is, you can definitely find something from the Metallica catalog to listen to today that will fit this mood. If you know, when it comes to Megadeth, I have to be in a certain mood to listen to Megadeth, and when I am, I absolutely love it, right? But when it comes to Metallica, I can always find an album or a song to listen to no matter what I feel like today. So if you ask me which one would I pick, I would definitely go with Metallica. And in addition, of course, their influence on heavy metal and on music overall is so enormous that just a handful of bands can even come close to them. I'm so sorry, all the grunge lovers, but to me, this is not even a question. Glam metal all the way. I never really understood the hate for glam metal, except for the silly looks. Like, I get the looks, I get it was a request of that time and stuff like that, and didn't particularly age that well, but I love the music for most parts, right? Many consider Wasp to being glam metal, which I don't actually agree with. Like, I would say that musically they're much more just standard heavy metal. That's just my weird opinion, and I'm happy to elaborate on it on some future episodes. Maybe I'll finally make an episode about Wasp as well. But I love Wasp, and they're incredible, and many other bands as well. So yeah, sorry about that. I know this most likely is not the sophisticated answer you were looking for, but glam metal all the way. When will I finally play guitar on the show? Well, to be honest with you, I don't know when now. I was never against it. I was kind of building my audience to finally pick it up and, play it on the show at some point before the big war started. But the truth is that I kind of haven't played guitar for 2.5 years. Yeah, almost at all. I just picked it up a couple of times since the war started. I simply, literally don't have any time for it. In between doing volunteer work, doing this show and the Ukrainian channel and having my day job, it's pretty impossible for me to carve out time for guitar playing. And if I would go back to music full time, and I really hope, as I said before, I really hope to do so at some point, I think guitar, at this point at least, will remain an instrument I would use to show the riffs to a real guitar player that I would like them to, perform on a song I'd write. I think this is it. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe I'll, maybe my fingers are not that bad, and who knows? Or maybe after playing it for years, I will remember it, like riding a bicycle or something like that. We'll see. We'll see. The very first album I bought with my own money. So my gateway to music was through my uncle mostly, right? And for years, all the cassette tapes that I had were copied from his cassette tapes, which were in part copied from some of his friends who most likely got it from some bootleg or something like that. Or I would record music from the radio. So I don't know if anyone else did that, but you would just wait for a new song to start. You just hit record right away and then wait for like 15 seconds or something like that to find out whether it's the song you like. And then you either continue recording it or just, record the next one on top of it. So that's been going on for years. But finally, when you could buy music in Ukraine, and when I finally saved up some money for it, 'cause obviously you could do it before that, but when I saved up some money for it, the very first album I bought myself, and it was still on cassette tape, it was Metallica's Ride the Lightning. And I've listened to that record on repeat, I think for years, honestly. Even when I grew up a little bit, when I was like 14 or something like that, I would just hit it in my cassette, like in my Walkman, and I would listen to it just from the start until the very end on my way to the school and back when I was just going on the metro in Kyiv. And that's why I guess it's so dear to me. Whether I like power metal or not it sounds like a very simple question, but in reality it is not. I was really, really into power metal when I was a teenager. As I mentioned, Rage was one of my favorite bands of all time. It's a German power metal band. You should definitely check them out if you haven't heard of them yet. And of course, Halloween or Blind Guardian. Blind Guardian's Nightfall in Middle Earth is among my, possibly top 10 of my favorite albums of all time. So yes, I love power metal. At the same time, I kind of fallen away from from power metal, and especially from the modern power metal scene, and from what is being called power metal today. Now, I have nothing against it, and I'm one of those people who truly believe that music should evolve all the time. That's why, I'm always very happy when the new genres emerged and when the bands are actually not being constant and are trying to evolve and change. But whatever is called in the power metal today, many of the new bands, I simply cannot relate to them, and that's why it's a tough question. I really like some older power metal stuff, more classic power metal, and especially if we're talking about European power metal scene, the more aggressive side of it especially. I really do enjoy it. But when it comes to modern power metal, not really that much of a fan, although I have nothing against it. So I don't know how to answer that question. Do I have a day job, or does this YouTube channel sustain me? Well, I do have a day job. I have like 3.5 jobs in reality. First of all, I have this channel and I absolutely love it. I love what I do here. Absolutely. In addition to that, I have a Ukrainian channel as well for Ukrainian audiences only. And so, that's one thing. But the truth is, it doesn't, really pay the bills. At least right now, I'm still not on that level. And obviously, I have my family. I have 2 daughters, and I have some other family members whom I would like to help out whenever I can as well. So I obviously do have a day job, and I work in advertising, I work in ad tech industry there, and in addition to that, I'm running a non-profit. I'm a head of a volunteer group here amidst the war, and in all honesty, this is pretty much the same thing as a whole other job, a full-time job that I'm doing. So yeah, trying to juggle it all somehow, and usually the only thing that is being sacrificed is sleep. That's why you sometimes see a lot of we call them the bags under my eyes. If you see them in the video, that means that I slept for just 2 to 3 hours or something like that. Dio or Ozzy? Oh my god, this is one of the hardest questions on this list, I guess. And the truth is that there's no right or wrong answer here, I guess. Well, when it comes to Black Sabbath, for me personally, and this is just once again, because of possibly my personal connection with the music, but I prefer Ozzy. Not because Dio didn't do an amazing job, he did an incredible job. Not because Dio's era doesn't have good songs. No, it has incredible songs, some of the most iconic and classic songs Black Sabbath have ever written. But I'm actually truly a fan of the earliest era of Black Sabbath, that very classic era. This is, whenever I want to listen to Black Sabbath, this is usually the era I go back to. And obviously, they had Ozzy on vocals back then. So yeah, for me, when it comes to Black Sabbath, I usually go to Ozzy era Black Sabbath. And I guess very similar thing would go for the solo stuff. Although this is where it becomes much more equal. I love Ozzy Osbourne's solo career, and I love selected at least albums from Dio's solo career. But if you ask me who is potentially a better singer, and I answered that in the the best top 5 singers of all times, I would place Dio over Ozzy, in all honesty. Although Ozzy, of course, is a great entertainer, he's a wonderful performer, and he's possibly one of the best frontmen in heavy metal. Dio's voice was outerworldly. So yeah, I would go with Dio when it comes to vocal performance, definitely. But when it comes to my favorite songs, I think Ozzy, whether in Black Sabbath or solo, would prevail. Music actually means more to me than one can even imagine, and I know for a fact that it is the same for many metalheads in Ukraine during the time of war. I mean, as I always say, heavy metal is what keeps me going, and I know for a fact many of my metalhead friends going through the hardships we are forced to go through these days with Russian aggression against Ukraine. And for the very first weeks of the full-scale invasion, I didn't listen to any music at all. And I realized now that it was possibly the longest time I've gone, without listening to heavy metal pretty much in my entire life. Especially if we believe my uncle with that story that when I was brought in from maternity hospital, he played me some Metallica, and since then he would play me metal music all the time, right? Especially given that, most likely it was the longest time I've gone through, without listening to metal, and I was miserable. Obviously, because of everything, but it was really hard for me to find strength and to find the strength to carry on. And then something clicked, and I've listened to, I think the very first songs I listened to were my standard ones. I just asked YouTube Music to play my favorite songs, and there was The Trooper, and there was You've Got Another Thing Coming among the very first songs that I've listened to. And obviously The Trooper is the song about kicking Russians' ass in Crimea. Very symbolic for me, and I was like, okay, yeah, we can do it. We can do it. Like, no matter what it takes, we can do it. And then came You've Got Another Thing Coming, which is one of the most uplifting songs in metal overall. It gives so much strength when you listen to it with the right mood and right attitude. And it just hit me. And since then, whenever I'm down, once again I listen to heavy metal. And this channel talking about heavy metal and this amazing community that we're building here is, what keeps me going. And so yeah, although it's not time for it here, I guess, but I just want to thank you guys all. This amazing, wonderful heavy metal community that we're building together. It means the world to me, honestly. My top 5 favorite live albums. I guess it would be a very predictable choice of mine. I'm not gonna say anything extraordinary here. I'll go with Judas Priest Unleashed in the East, Iron Maiden's Live After Death, Motorhead's No Sleep Till Hammersmith, Metallica's Live Shit, and Deep Purple, Made in Japan. Yeah, that one. Okay, so I actually have a bunch of guitars. The very first one I bought for myself was Epiphone, special model, whatever it is. It's the most basic guitar one could get to, learn how to play. Then I have a Schecter C1 Classic Diamond Series with a mother pearl over here. I love it. It's possibly my favorite guitar to play on. I have a semi-acoustic guitar back on my balcony. But I also have a crown jewel of my personal collection. 1 second. So this is a Guild from 1966, which was gifted to me in Costa Rica by nobody else but Rhonda Lacey, who was a back vocal singer for Rolling Stones at some point, and an ex-girlfriend of Stevie Ray Vaughan. And apparently this guitar belonged to Stevie Ray Vaughan at some point. Know how true it is, but Rhonda even wrote here, "Remember me and SRV" on the back of this guitar, and it's a gorgeous Guild, and everything is authentic here, back from 1966. Yeah, and you even have a number here which you can check, because all the Guilds are marked, and you can check what happened to it, and most of the owners there. So it's definitely the crown jewel of my personal collection, and I would never give it away. But I also never, ever, almost ever play it, to be honest with you. How come I speak English so well? Well, I still make a lot of mistakes, I guess. But the thing is, I kind of been learning English since I was a little kid, thanks to my parents. But I also kind of left Ukraine to study abroad when I was 17. I went to UWC, United World Colleges in Costa Rica. I lived there for 2 years. It's an amazing program where you have like kids from 80 different countries who are thrown in together into a closed space, and they're basically forced to coexist for 80 years, and it's supposed to teach you peace, multiculturalism, and environmentalism. So it's a great program. So, and obviously most of education was there. There was in there was in English, and that's where I also picked up Spanish, obviously. But after that, I went to study in near Boston. I went to university near Boston. I went to Wheaton College in Northern Mass. Lived there for a while. Lived in London. Lived in New York, worked there for a while. Then I came back to Ukraine, and yeah, so I guess I'm a cheater. It's it's not really authentic. Like I wouldn't tell you, a story that you most likely wanted to hear, how I learned it from Duolingo or something like that. No. But the truth is that I picked up most of my vocabulary back in the day when I was, still in high school, from translating metal songs. That's it. I especially love translating Motorhead, because Lemmy was a unique lyricist. Honestly, many people who listen to Motorhead, I think they do not understand how freaking sophisticated the lyrics on some of the songs are. And by translating some of the lyrics of my favorite songs, that's how I picked up most of the vocabulary, and then the rest just kind of came naturally. 5 new wave of British heavy metal bands which should have been much bigger than they actually are. Diamond Head, 5 times. No, just kidding. Diamond Head, Cloven Hoof, Angel Witch, Tigers of Pantan, and Demon. Have no idea how come they didn't become huge. I think it is a crime against humanity that we haven't heard Deja Vu live. So yes, absolutely Deja Vu. No doubts here. Just go for it, finally. Just do it. Oh my god, it's an amazing song, and I would absolutely love to hear it being performed live and screamed from the top of their lungs by many thousands of heavy metal fans from all over the world. Oh my god, it would be incredible. Yes, I absolutely love football, or for all our American friends, soccer, and I always loved. And I spent most of my childhood on stadiums. Me and my late father, we used to go to, to pretty much every Dynamo Kyiv game, because obviously I'm from Kyiv, so that's the big team here. And to this very day, this remains my team. Just one club. That's it. I can support, anybody whenever they're playing Champions League or something like that. But if you ask me which team I truly support, I support only one team, and it's Dynamo Kyiv all the way. What I think about modern metal? Well, this is a question for like whole episode of at least 20 to 30 minutes, something like that. But I have nothing against it, and I think every metal subgenre has a right to exist, and it's absolutely incredible that there are so many new ones appearing all the time, and introducing new crowds into this wonderful world of metal. With my opinion on Sleep Token and Slaughter to Prevail, I'm sorry, I was trying to listen to Sleep Token for several times. I was really trying to. I simply couldn't. It makes me fall asleep and makes me want to switch the channel. I don't consider it metal. I'm sorry, and I don't consider it thoughtfully composed music. Just because you compose it out of many different, from different angles all the time, but it doesn't make it good composition. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anyone here. This is just my opinion, since I was asked about it, and I even tried to listen to them live, because usually, a lot of times, especially with metal, you would get into a band when you listen to them live, and the truth is, it didn't do anything for me. I couldn't get into it. So yeah, I guess that's it. And it's not like I'm only pro old school. I love a lot of newer bands. As I mentioned, I listen to New In Flames just as much as I listen to Old In Flames. I listen to a lot of newer bands, but when it comes to those new subgenres like Sleep Token, and especially those Wonders, I'm sorry, just not my thing. Absolutely. as Blackie Lawless told me, 2 years ago exactly, actually, in the surprise interview he did with me, was, we will organize an amazing heavy metal party. The biggest rock and roll party the world has ever seen in Kyiv right after our victory. And all of you guys will, of course, be invited to it. For some reason, I really, really want to interview Metallica on the show. Even possibly more so than Iron Maiden in the nearest future, and for a very simple reason. Most of the Metallica interviews that I've seen lately are kind of, all the same. They are not, the boys are not being asked anything, interesting and anything, that can actually spark a conversation about the old days, about, some really interesting stuff for diehard fans. So I would really, really love to do that. And Iron Man, I still can't believe that neither Bruce or Steve weren't on the show. Yeah, so hopefully those guys will join me very soon. What is the best way to support the Metal Pilgrim show? Well, thank you so much. First of all, I guess Patreon or buy me a coffee. It's also a service and I'm on it as well. Or just simply purchasing, Metal Pilgrim merch. And by the way, I just wanted to thank everyone who's been supporting me so much. It means the world to me, and it's actually very, very important for me personally and for the development of the Metal Pilgrim show. Without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. So, thank you everyone. Do I still buy CDs and vinyl records? Well, it depends. I try to buy all the releases from my favorite bands because, first of all, I really, really want to support them. This is very important in the modern world, right? So, I of course I listen to most of my music on streaming services because it's easier, and because because of the channels and everything, and especially because of MP2, the second channel. For those who don't know, I dive deeper into much younger bands that I don't have on vinyl or on CD, of course there, and that's why I use streaming services. But whenever it comes to Judas Priest or Iron Maiden or Metallica or Motorhead, I would of course try to buy the vinyl records if I am able to do that. So yeah, and I have no idea how many I have. I know that's another question there. I don't know, I never tried to count them, but I have an entire Judas Priest collection. I have an almost full Iron Maiden collection. I have a pretty good one when it comes to Motorhead. I started collecting vinyl records back in 2008 or something like that. Yeah, so it's been a while. And the same goes for CDs, but I don't really collect them anymore. Simply I don't have where to listen to them. But yeah, I try to get as many vinyl records as I can. Given the finances, it's not always possible, of course. But I still think that owning a physical piece of music makes you much happier than simply enjoying it on streaming services. My all-time favorite Ukrainian food is definitely borscht. Can't imagine my life without it. And so if you haven't tried it, definitely try it out. But only tried made by Ukrainians. I ate it at a restaurant, in the United States, made by non-Ukrainians. With all due respect, nah. That's it! I did it! Oh my god, 35 questions for my 35th birthday. That's it. Thank you so much, guys, for the amazing questions. I know there were many more there. I tried to combine them, the similar questions into one or something like that, but there are hundreds of them there, so I couldn't really answer all of them, of course. But thank you so much for this amazing heavy metal community that we're building together. Just know that it means the world to me, and please, guys, continue supporting me, this show in Ukraine, through this incredibly difficult time. It is... I can't even tell you how much it means to me and all Ukrainian metalheads. We will prevail. Slava Ukraini!